Welcome to the Weather Farm. We have the entire United States and its forecast. We are breaking down storms that are going to impact the Central Plains down through the Dixie Alley this upcoming weekend. We're going to give you temperatures and we're going to break it down region by region so you can best plan for your backyard festivities this upcoming weekend. Let's dive right into our forecast. As we begin our day Friday, we are watching this area of low pressure off the East Coast. This is the same low pressure system that has slowly moved its way through the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley throughout this week. It is now spinning off the coast of Maine and is bringing showers across northern New England, back to western New York, into parts of Ontario and Quebec. And we're even seeing in those higher elevations this morning, we're seeing some mountain snow and some mixed precipitation with the cold air that has moved in. Across the northern Rockies into the northern plains, we're seeing an area of scattered showers making its way from Montana down through the Dakotas into Nebraska. This is going to provide the firing mechanism later in the day to get storms really going across the northern north central plains. And we're going to watch a series of systems over the next 72 hours that are going to move from the central plains down into the Dixie Alley, and it's going to provide heavy amounts of rain and the risk of severe weather. As we take a look at our Storm Prediction Center, the day one outlook for our Friday, we are watching an area of slight risk from western Nebraska through the heart of Kansas, including the Wichita area, down to Oklahoma, including Tulsa and Oklahoma City, even making its way into far northwestern Arkansas. So we're going to watch this area for the greatest chance of severe weather. We're not really expecting much in the way of tornadoes, just a slight 2% risk in the highlighted area. The main threat that we're going to see on our Friday is the hail. In parts of western Kansas, even far northeastern Colorado, we are under a hatched area for hail risk. This means we can see hail in excess of 2 to 3 inches, so softball size hail is possible in that hatched area. As we make our way to our Saturday, though, that area does shift more into the Oklahoma area, and that's going to be the focus area over the next several days. The south central plains over towards the Dixie Alley. We see this marginal risk extending over through Alabama. So we're going to watch storms move through this area over the next 72 hours. And so we're going to have a daily chance of severe weather across this area. In fact, as we go to Sunday, that does shift a little bit further south into Oklahoma and parts of northern Texas. And by the time we get to our Memorial Day, the Storm Prediction Center has gone ahead and issued a 15% chance, but there's a strong likelihood that the Dallas metro area and points south are going to be under the impact of severe weather as we make our way through this weekend. So let's jump back to our map and put it back into motion for our Friday. As we go through the day, by the time we get to the afternoon, we're going to start to see some storms beginning to pop over eastern Nebraska. That low pressure is going to continue to sit and spin over the northeast by the time we get to 5 p.m. on our Friday evening. We're watching an area of low pressure that's moving out of Colorado into the western part of Kansas. And this is going to provide enough lift with that counterclockwise motion that we're going to also get some storms firing over western parts of Missouri and eastern Kansas. So as we go through the night, we're going to continue to watch storms beginning to pop here as they kind of die out with the daytime heating across the northern plains. So as we go overnight Friday, those storms are going to start to congeal into a line of storms. And we're going to have heavy rain in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, even over towards the Memphis area. So we're going to watch this system, and it's going to become a big cluster of thunderstorms that's going to dive to the south and east through Arkansas into Mississippi by the time we get to Saturday afternoon. But look right behind it. Across parts of Wyoming, Nebraska, and to northeastern Colorado, we already have another cluster of storms beginning to form, and those storms again are going to move to the southeast. Again, with this northwesterly flow and this dip in the jet stream across the eastern half of the United States, those storms are just riding the periphery of that jet stream. So we're going to watch these storms again fire over the same areas Saturday night into Sunday morning. Southern Missouri, Colorado, back through the northern plains Sunday. And this is where Sunday we start to see the heavy rain and the severe weather shift down towards Oklahoma into Arkansas. We could get a few storms firing here. And then as we go into Monday, we see it shifting down into Texas. But there is significant rain and even a few thunderstorms in eastern Colorado into western Kansas as we begin our day Monday morning. And we're really going to see a general area of storms from the Dakotas down through the Dixie Alley for your Memorial Day week. So let's break this down region by region. So we're going to start here in the north central plains. So here's Nebraska, here's Kansas, and Oklahoma. So as we begin our Friday, we see isolated showers and storms across parts of South Dakota into central Nebraska. And we're going to watch these continue to dive off to the south and east. By the time we get to Friday afternoon, we're starting to see some discrete cells forming, especially into Kansas, not so much into Nebraska and western Iowa, But here across Kansas, we have some discrete cells. Again, the threat isn't that great for tornadoes. It's probably going to be hail and some strong winds, but we're going to watch these storms continue to fire. And we're going to continue to see these discrete cells as we move toward 8 o'clock at night, firing across parts of eastern Kansas and western Missouri. As we get toward overnight, those discrete cells continue to fire. So we're going to watch any one of these to develop the possibility of a tornado. That becomes the risk if this is going to be a more of an overnight event on Friday compared to a daytime event. So we're going to watch these discrete cells continue to develop and move southeast. Here we get to about 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. We see a strong line of storms across eastern Kansas stretching down towards the Memphis area, down into the far northeastern Arkansas. And this is going to produce heavy amounts of rain. And we're going to continue to see rain moving across the same area. Heavy rain at that, as by the time we get to Saturday morning, about 10 a.m., heavy rain across southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, and we're talking rainfall that could approach 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour. And that's going to continue to move southeast during the day on our Saturday. And then, as I mentioned, look back to the north and west. Here we have another line of storms beginning to form into southeastern Wyoming, into parts of Nebraska, and out of South Dakota. Those are going to continue to move south and east during the day on our Saturday night. And we put that map into motion. Here we are at 10 p.m. Heavy rain across most of Nebraska. We're getting a few cells starting to pop again across parts of southern Kansas into Oklahoma. And even here in Texas, we have a skinny line of storms that could produce isolated heavy amounts of rain, hail, and strong winds as this continues to develop by about 10 p.m. Saturday night. That system does intensify a little bit as it moves into southwest Oklahoma, but we continue to watch these storms move to the south and east. We see individual cells by the time we get to 3 a.m. Saturday night. So if you're in southern Kansas, southwestern Missouri, be on the watch out. Make sure you have your weather radio charged and on in case there's any warnings issued for your area. That little cluster of storms that moved out of Texas, it's kind of dying out by the time we get to 3 a.m. But again, by the time we wake up on Sunday morning, we have heavy rain across most of Kansas, southern Missouri, into northern Arkansas. That same area that saw heavy amounts of rain Friday night into Saturday, you're seeing it again Saturday into Sunday. In terms of our temperatures across the nation, as we begin our Friday, we're going to see, again, the northwesterly flow of air that's been pretty dominant across the eastern half of the United States. It's going to continue, and temperatures are going to be held down across New England and the Great Lakes into the 40s and 50s. We are warming back into the 60s for the Ohio Valley. That is still below normal. Where we have that rainfall across the northern plains making its way to southeast, temperatures are going to be held down there by the added cloud cover. Across Texas and across the southern coast, it's 80s and 90s. Triple-digit heat is confined back to the deserts of the Southwest. As we go into our Saturday, the warmth continues along the southern tier of the United States. We are getting a little bit warmer across the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. Slight moderation even into the Northeast, though temperatures are still well below normal for this time of the year. But across the northern plains, temperatures again are being held down in the 50s, where we see that rainfall forming on our Saturday, and we really can see where the rainfall is on our Sunday. And that's where the temperatures are held down. Elsewhere, across the Canadian prairies, you're in the 70s and 80s. Out across the desert Southwest, your temperatures are cooling just slightly, but across parts of southern Georgia, you're well into the mid to upper 90s for your Sunday. As we go to Memorial Day, a little bit cooler with that rain moving across the Central Plains into the Dixie Alley. So temperatures here will be held down with the storms and the added cloud cover in the 70s and 80s. So your real warmth is across western Texas, back into the desert Southwest. But finally, New England, you're warming up 60s and 70s for your afternoon highs for Monday. The Central Plains and northern Great Lakes are going to be under the influence of continued days of severe weather and cloud cover, and that's going to hold temperatures down in the 50s and 60s. Well, what's causing all of this? Why are we seeing so much cooler weather in the Central Plains? Well, here's our jet stream as we begin our Friday morning. And what we talked about last weekend is we saw divergence, and that's what prompted a lot of the strong storms across the Ohio and Tennessee valleys Friday into Saturday last weekend. But as we see here, the jet stream is now converging. So we have one branch of it that's coming up, a little ridge, and it's diving down. And we have another branch that's coming out of Canada, and they're converging here across Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois. And so where you have converging air, that air is then sinking down toward the ground. Think of it as a funnel. So the air is kind of sinking, and it's warming up. And so we really don't see instability happening in those areas. High pressure tends to produce calmer, fair weather. And so as we put our jet stream into motion and we see that convergence, we're going to see that continue to impact the eastern half of the United States. And why we think this is going to continue, if we put that jet stream into motion, we're seeing troughing coming into the western half of the United States as we begin next week. And when we start to see troughing, we then see those storms riding that jet stream. And storms that eject out of the Colorado Rockies, out of the Four Corners region into the Central Plains, that's where we tend to get the more intense, severe weather. So we're going to see the pattern this weekend from the ridging, but it's next week. We're going to watch the Central Plains continue to be under the gun for more severe weather as we make our way into Tuesday and Wednesday with that trough in the west and those storms ejecting into the Central Plain. We're then going to start watching an area of low pressure across the northern plains that's going to settle back into the Ohio Valley as we go into next weekend. And we're going to have potentially another round cutoff low across the Ohio and Great Lakes Valley. Still over a week away, a lot can change, but this is something to be mindful of, is we're going to see a continued pattern of warm in the west, stormy in the central, and the eastern half of the United States is going to be cooler than normal as we begin the new month of June. So in terms of our temperatures region by region, let's break it down for you. Starting in the Northeast for your Friday, we have low 40s across most of northern Maine. As I mentioned, we're seeing snowfall in those higher elevations. As we make our way down to New York City, it's getting close to 60 degrees for your afternoon high. And down into Virginia, we're in the mid to upper 60s for your Friday. As we make our way towards Saturday, still very cool across far northern New England, across Boston, eastern Massachusetts, out along the Cape, you're in the mid 50s. We're starting to warm into the 70s across Virginia. As we make our way back to eastern Kentucky and West Virginia, highs are in the 60s. As we make our way to Sunday, slight warming continues across far northern New England. 50s are starting to return, but it is still that cooler flow of air from the northwest that is helping to keep temperatures about 5 to 10 degrees below seasonal norms. But by the time we get to Monday, it's 60s and 70s for the Northeast. In terms of precipitation, once this system moves out on Friday, we're going to really see the rainfall slow down across far northern New England. But during the day on Friday, you could see up to an inch of rain across parts of Maine. Elsewhere throughout the next 72 hours, we're going to see rainfall amounts generally less than a half of an inch. Across the Southeast, it's going to be warm temperatures, 80s and through the Carolinas, 90s through the southern parts of the Gulf states, even 90s into the western half of Florida for our Friday. As we make our way to Saturday, it's a repeat of those temperatures. Sunday, we start to see a little bit of cooler weather with those rain showers making their way through Tennessee. Temperatures held down in the 70s. We could even have some disturbed weather off the coast of the Carolinas. Going to help keep those temperatures down near 80 degrees. Afternoon thunderstorms are going to help limit the temperatures in central Florida and southern Florida. We do have a weak area of disturbed weather here that could fire up some afternoon storms. Keep your temperatures down in the 80s. And as we make our way to our Memorial Day, as I mentioned, with those rain showers moving in from the northwest to the southeast into the Dixie Valley, temperatures will be held down slightly. 70s are going to be very likely from Arkansas all the way over to the Carolinas. The real warmth is going to be across parts of Louisiana and along the Gulf Coast. In terms of our precipitation, by the time we get to Monday morning, the heaviest amounts of rain are going to be in the Carolinas, where you get under those right thunderstorms, 1 to 2 inches. Same thing here across central and southern Florida, where those afternoon thunderstorms fire and you get those downpours, you could see well over an inch. And then with those systems, those series of storms that are moving out of the plains into the Dixie Alley, we could see isolated 1, 2. As we get into far northern Arkansas here, we could see up to 3 to 6 inches rain. Looking at Texas on our Friday, it's primarily in the 80s, 90s, near 100 for most areas. Repeat on Saturday, we are seeing cooler weather here across southern Missouri and northern Arkansas, where we have those rain showers. Temperatures there being held down into the 60s. Across New Mexico, southeastern New Mexico, you're warming to near 100 for your Sunday. Temperatures are being kept down across parts of Kansas and Missouri with that added cloud cover, with those storms moving through. Temperatures here in the 50s and 60s for your Sunday. As we go into Monday, it's basically a repeat. Cooler to the north, 70s across Oklahoma, 80s and 90s across most parts of Texas, warm across parts of New Mexico, temperatures in the 90s. In terms of our precipitation, as I mentioned, where those storms move through, eastern Kansas, southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, where we see those storms really building and really having that heavy rainfall Friday night into Saturday, Saturday into Sunday. By the time we get to Monday, we could see widespread 4 to 8, maybe as much as 10 inches of rain here across this area. Elsewhere, it's going to be 1 to 3 inches. Texas, even into Dallas, you could see up to an inch of rain over the next 72 hours. Looking at the Great Lakes for that northwesterly flow of air, it is cool for our Friday, 50s and 60s. Warming slightly on our Saturday into the 60s across most of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And we're going to continue to remain there for our Sunday. A little bit warmer across parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. You're now warming into the 60s. And as we make our way to Memorial Day, we're going to see near 70s across parts of Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, even into Michigan. You could be in the mid to upper 60s for Memorial Day. But where those rain showers are heaviest, as we've mentioned, across Nebraska into Kansas, temperatures there held down into the 50s. In terms of our precipitation, the heaviest rain is going to be along that axis to the south and west. As those storms dive out of the Central Plains through the Dixie Alley, the heaviest rain is going to be south and west. And that's, again, where we saw 4 to 6, 8, possibly 10 inches of rain. As we look at the northern plains, temperatures are in the 50s and 60s for our Friday. Basically a repeat as we make our way through the next several days. Though Sunday, we start to see some ridging, and the cloud cover is going to hold temperatures down here associated with those storms in the low 40s and 50s. But where we see sunshine, temperatures will rebound into the 60s and 70s. Same thing as we go into our Monday. To the north, across the southern provinces of Canada, we're going to see temperatures in the 60s and 70s, even through Minnesota into Wisconsin. But it is those central plains with that thick cloud cover where temperatures are going to be held down. In terms of our precipitation, with those storms as they fire Friday into Saturday, Saturday into Sunday, and then as we begin early next week, we could see 2 to 4 inches here in southwestern South Dakota, eastern Wyoming, and northwestern Nebraska. Even into northeastern Colorado, you could be getting in on that heavy amount of rainfall. Looking across the southwest, temperatures are warm across the desert. Las Vegas, you're approaching 100. The deserts are well into the 100s. Los Angeles, you're going to be in the near 80 degrees for your Friday. As we make our way into Saturday, a little bit cooler. Temperatures across the deserts in the 90s to near 100. And that's where we're going to remain most of Sunday as well. Las Vegas, you're at 94. A little bit cooler for Los Angeles as temperatures are going to be held in the mid 70s. And as we make our way from Memorial Day, it's going to be nice weather across most of this area with seasonal temperatures. The one problem that we do have is we're not seeing much in the way of precipitation for the next 72 hours. As we look across the Pacific Northwest, temperatures are in the 50s and 60s for our Friday, warming across parts of eastern Washington into western Idaho into the 70s and near 80 for our Sunday, and then even upper 80s across parts of eastern Washington. A little bit cooler for our Memorial Day, temperatures being held down in the 70s and 80s, but southern Idaho, you could be well into the 80s and even some isolated 90-degree temperatures for your Memorial Day. The main threat is going to be heavy precipitation. It's going to be across British Columbia as we have an area of low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska, and that's going to produce heavy amounts of rain, up to 5-6 inches of rain across parts of northern and central British Columbia. In fact, let's jump right up into Alaska right now. So here's that area of low pressure, and it's continued to bring heavy rain to parts of British Columbia. This is our Friday morning. So let's put this into motion. And with this area of low pressure, and we have a trough that's diving from the North Slope through central Alaska on our Friday. And with the counterclockwise motion of this low and the trough moving in, it's going to create enough instability that by Friday afternoon, we're going to start to see storms popping across the central interior to the western coast. And some of these storms could produce heavy amounts of rain. We're talking some thunderstorms, some strong winds, and heavy amounts of rain. Not only for our Friday, they'll die out overnight, Friday night into Saturday, but by the time we get to Saturday afternoon, we're seeing those storms again fire across the same area as that area of low pressure continues to spin here off the coast of British Columbia. By the time we get to Monday or Sunday into Monday, it's more of the same. But then we're going to watch an area of low pressure that's going to skirt the northern slope. That can provide another round of snow for far northern points in Alaska Sunday night into Monday. But we're going to continue to watch those storms fire with the associated instability across this area as temperatures are going to warm up. Speaking of temperatures, as we begin our day, we're going to watch temperatures rise to near 60 degrees across most of the interior of Alaska. That's going to help fuel those thunderstorms for our Friday. As we go to Saturday, it's a repeat. You have 20s and 30s along the North Slope. The Kenai Peninsula, you're warming 60s. You can even see some 70s. But where we have that colder air in those higher elevations across far southeastern Alaska, we're going to be held down there as well in the 20s and 30s. So we make our way into our Sunday. Temperatures are moderating a little bit, not as warm as we saw on our Saturday. We have a little bit more cooler air making its way across the North Slope. Temperatures there being held below freezing. As we make our way to Memorial Day, warmth is going to exist in the central interior valley out to the western peninsula and through the Aleutian Islands. We even see some moderation along the north slope with temperatures approaching freezing for our Memorial Day. As I mentioned, some of those thunderstorms could be heavy, so we could see isolated pockets of 1/2 to 1 inch of rain by the time we get to Monday morning across the central interior of Alaska. The heaviest rain is going to be along the coast of British Columbia, where you could see up to 3 to 5 inches of rain. And this pattern of weather isn't really going to change anytime soon. The Climate Prediction Center has gone ahead and issued its 8 to 14 day outlook as we begin the new month of June, and they're keeping the warm temperatures across the western part of the United States through the northern plains. It's the Ohio and Tennessee valleys down through the Dixie Alley that's going to be below normal as we begin the month of June. In terms of precipitation, the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, you're finally drying out. The northern plains into the Pacific Northwest, we do see some welcome rains and above normal chances of precipitation across most of Texas into the southwest, though not into the deserts near Phoenix where we really need it, and along the Gulf Coast. We see above normal chances of precipitation as we begin the month of June. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this forecast. We hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. We hope you get to spend time with family, with friends. Remember those who gave their lives for this country. Remember to take time and honor them on Monday. We hope to see you again real soon. Have a wonderful day.